It started with a name. I was reading I had trouble in getting to Solla Sollew to my kids, and they asked me what Solla Sollew meant. The nonsense words stood out like a mystery waiting to be uncovered. Of course, there are a lot of Syutian nonsense names, but these seemed unique. They didn't just rhyme, they felt patterned. So-and-so. Double L, looped syllables. It didn't read like a place, it read like a code. That's when I paused and I started looking at it not as a name but as text. So I flipped it. Solla Sollew becomes Alice Wellos, and there it was suddenly. All is well. At first it felt like a clever little trick, but then something deeper caught, because this isn't a story where all is well. It's a story about a character getting stung, kicked, flooded, abandoned, troubled at every turn. It's one long list of misadventures, disappointments, and failed escapes. So what is a phrase like all's well doing hidden in the name of the destination? That's when I realized this wasn't just a rhyme, it was a riddle. Because what kind of story hides its resolution in plain sight, disguised in mirror writing? What kind of text invites you to reverse it, not just in word but in meaning? What began as a nonsense name revealed a mirror. And once I saw it, the whole book reversed. This is the journey from Solla Sollew to All's Well, and it's not a children's story, it's a map. The story begins in the valley of Vung, where the protagonist lives in a seemingly normal world. Everything coexists without friction. He perceives the world as whole, unproblematic, and simply there. He has not yet developed a critical relationship to his life. The world is immersive, not reflective. His cognition is implicit. He lives within assumptions, not above them. But an intuitive undercurrent stirs when he trips and hurts his tail. This is not yet trouble as a concept, just a disturbance. It marks the end of naive immersion. It is as though the sky has cracked ever so slightly. Not enough to rain, but enough to make the light feel wrong. The valley of Vung is still there, unchanged, but it no longer holds him. Where once his steps followed the ground without question, now the ground tugs back strangely. The world and self, once seamless, have begun to echo each other, no longer fused but felt. The protagonist tries to adjust. He looks where he's going, but then gets bitten from behind. He looks backward, but gets attacked from above. Trouble starts compounding. He begins to selectively attend. Something is wrong. This marks the shift to attention as motivated by internal dissonance. A traveler appears and tells him about Solla Sollew, a land with no troubles. This is the feedback loop. A disrupted perception reinforces cognition, which feeds intuitive anticipation. Each encounter with trouble sharpens the idea that maybe there is a place without it. He had never imagined such a place before, but now in the shadow of each misstep, that image glows brighter. The more he's struck, the more he believes, and so he does not simply hear the stranger's words, he needs them to be true. Trouble gives birth to longing, and longing gives trouble its shape. He accepts the offer and begins his journey. This is linear development. The premise is clear. Escape the bad, pursue the good. They travel until the camel falls ill. A doctor diagnoses a condition requiring a 20-week rest. Reality intrudes. The story becomes concrete. Perception registers hard limits. Cognition becomes instrumental. Get around the problem. Intuition shifts into realism. Now progress becomes measured. There are obstacles, diagnoses, decisions. He starts to see events not as moods or mysteries, but as problems with solutions. The land ahead is still golden in his mind, but he now sees what stands between. The world has become something to navigate. Steps become plans. Choices become necessary. He is no longer merely leaving, he is managing the route. The next ride, a bus, is broken. He walks 100 miles and is overtaken by the midwinter jicker. He finds shelter in a house but cannot sleep because of the noises. Then the house is swept away in a flood. Each event is anomalous, unanticipated. No amount of rational structure suffices. At this stage, anomalies lead, not logic. The narrative logic breaks. The journey begins to feel like a dream where cause and effect no longer speak to one another. He moves, but not forward. He reacts, but not from reason. Each moment overturns the last, and there is no shape to follow. Meaning begins to flicker in strange places, not in patterns, but in their collapse. The road to Solla Sollew now feels like something being invented behind him, not discovered ahead. He drifts in the flood for days. There's no movement forward, just passive experience. He is picked up by General Schmitz and conscripted. Now every event is full of unseen depth. The general, the army, the mission, each seems meaningful but layered and difficult to grasp. The hero begins to reprocess past experiences. He is now accumulating trouble, not evading it. The journey becomes recursive. What once appeared to be detours now circle back like signs. Trouble is not just encountered, it is inhabited. The people he meets, the roles he is assigned, even the floods and marches, all seem to carry more than their surface. He begins to feel that he's not just passing through events, but being shaped by them. The journey starts to weigh, not as burden, but as memory, becoming structure. He marches with the army. The world is highly structured, emotionally charged, and filled with implicit weight. When they reach the battlefield, the army flees. He is left behind. Everything becomes saturated with unprocessed meaning. The world seems to be responding to him, yet remains unintelligible. He senses significance. This isn't random, but he cannot yet articulate it. His sense of self and world are in flux. He stands alone amid scattered boots and vanished banners, and though no one speaks, everything around him seems to hold its breath. The silence does not feel empty, it feels unfinished. His abandonment doesn't isolate him, it implicates him. He begins to sense that the meanings he's chasing aren't out ahead, but coiled inside the very moments that confound him. The world isn't lost, it's listening. Trapped, he finds a tunnel and crawls through it. It's a solitary, embodied experience. The journey is stripped of drama. There are no metaphors here, just physicality, movement, and persistence. He emerges changed, not in belief, but in presence. He isn't calculating anymore. He is aware, attuned, and responsive. Here there is no audience, no plan, no promise, only breath and crawl, hand and stone. But somehow this narrow passage gives him room to change. It isn't escape, it's emergence. In the friction of body and earth, his thoughts quiet. He no longer asks where he is going, he simply goes, and in that rhythm something deep aligns. He arrives at the river Wahoo and sees Solla Sollew. Now, the full system activates. He orients completely. Goal, desire, and presence align. He is acting as a unified self. He believes resolution is at hand. The city shimmers not just as a destination, but as a reflection of everything he has carried to this point. All roads seem to converge here. Missteps, floods, armies, tunnels. He feels focused, singular, whole. What he sees across the river is not merely a place, but a promise his entire self has prepared to meet. For the first time, he feels truly ready. But Solla Sollew is closed. A key-slapping slipper has occupied the keyhole. The logic breaks. His models fail. The structure cannot complete. He is told to go elsewhere, yet another city with even fewer troubles. The hero hits the wall of partial systems. All that had seemed coherent fractures. His intuitive self resists the cycle while cognition clings to the pattern. It is not disappointment that overtakes him, but dissonance. The city is real, the door is real, and yet it is all impossibly wrong. He has arrived only to be rerouted. The whole journey condenses into a single absurd obstacle. Something in him recoils, not at the trouble, but at the structure of always deferring arrival. His faith in the arc and the formula begins to fray. He nearly loops. The gatekeeper has left to seek another perfect place. This is the archetypal reflex, the cycle of longing and leaving. The hero stands at the edge of repetition. The association pattern is strong. Go where you are told, follow the formula, believe again. He hesitates. The story invites him to become a cliché, and in that pause he feels the weight of every traveler before him, each one drawn to the next shining promise. The path ahead is easy because it is worn. He sees that. He feels the impulse to follow, not as choice but as inheritance. This isn't decision, it's gravity. To go on would be to vanish into the myth, to become another line in someone else's story. He refuses, he turns around. He returns to the Valley of Vung. He picks up a bat. The story ends not in escape, but in confrontation. The troubles will now have trouble with him. He is not naive, not cynical. He has integrated the journey, not by arriving at Solla Sollew, but by becoming the kind of person who no longer needs it. The valley is not different, but he is. The world he once drifted through is now met with eyes that see, hands that act, a self that chooses. Solla Sollew still exists somewhere perhaps, but he no longer seeks a place without trouble. He has become a place where meaning is made, where life is no longer something to flee but something to meet, shape, and stand within. It began as a riddle, a phrase hidden in reverse, Solla Sollew, the land promising all's well, but the promise was never the destination. It was the journey itself, hidden in plain sight, the very troubles he fled. Each bite, flood, misstep, and locked gate weren't obstacles preventing arrival. They were necessary conditions, precedents enabling him to grow into someone who could finally see clearly. He does not become ready to face trouble. Rather, he becomes ready precisely by facing trouble. The logic of Solla Sollew reverses in the final insight. Trouble is not something you escape. Trouble is how you awaken. The Valley of Vung is unchanged, yet he returns transformed, able to wield trouble like the bat in his hand. He no longer longs for a perfect place because he understands deeply and finally that readiness is never waiting ahead. It's accumulated behind, through every difficulty embraced, every illusion discarded. In flipping Solla Sollew to all's well, he doesn't find peace waiting on the far side of trouble. He discovers trouble itself as the hidden teacher, the indispensable guide. The map was never leading him away from trouble, but deeper into it and thus back to himself. All is well, not despite the trouble, but precisely because of it. What will it teach you?